beware the scholarships. And actually, this is a lot of times when people volunteer to be on the board because they like what they see, right? It's a demonstration of what can be done. And so for a while, we were doing it every 2 years. And then another group called OSTEM, which is more about students, came about. That's a whole nother story. But we started, they asked us to do a joint meeting with them. We've done that twice. So.
You mentioned scholarships. Mm-hmm. What were the funding sources? Who was supporting this?
Donors, but also I wrote grants to Motorola Solutions Foundation. The beginning one was a grant from, hold on, I'm having an elder moment. Battelle National Foundation. And actually the person that got that going is now the chair of Out to Innovate. It's funny. But the first 2 years were funded by Battelle National Labs. And then I wrote grants to Motorola Solutions, which we've been doing for the last 10 years. And they've been very good. Started out with $20,000, and at one point we had $40,000 or $50,000 a year. And then by having a corporation do it, through their foundation, we've also been there's been some engineering groups who've been donating, and we're almost up to $100,000 a year now, in terms of being able to put out scholarships. And so it's usually $5,000 for second place and $8,000 for first place. So it's significant.
Shelley, in 1997, the Los Angeles Gay and Lesbian Center recognized you with the Lace Award for professional achievement. I'd like to hear about that, and more generally, if being in Los Angeles, where perhaps the entertainment industry has been progressive and out in front in these issues to some degree, if that made it less of a regional recognition and more of a national recognition, just by virtue of being in LA.
That's a good question. Lace Award, I was happy to get it. Okay. And somebody from JPL actually nominated me.
Oh.
Amy Ryan and Amy Ross also, the two letters that went in. And I think they recognized me a lot for the work on AIDS activism and pulling together LGBT people in the STEM fields. But the Lace Award was also a way to get you to donate to the center,
right?
To buy a table, right? But it also was interesting because there were people in my family who I didn't think respected me who wanted to come to the dinner. And that was a turning point in terms of my family, knowing that they finally accepted me was big.
Yeah.
But the disappointment was that the MC was Ellen DeGeneres, and she didn't give any of us recipients the time of day. Mm. So in terms of the entertainment industry, that was of no help whatsoever. More help in terms of the entertainment industry actually came from me sitting on a jury with somebody from the entertainment industry.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Shelley, while we're on that topic, later on, a few years later, the Walt Westman Service Award. Who is or was Walt Westman?
Walt Westman was the founder of the National Organization of Gay and Lesbian Scientists. He was the original founder. He was a geographer at UCLA who pulled us all together. He was the chair when I came on board, and his death was the reason I got involved in the leadership. He died of AIDS.
Did you ever get to meet him?
Oh, yeah. We were good friends.
What was he like?
He was a person that was really straightforward and kind of like lines on a map. He could engineer what he wanted to do. Okay. And he was the driving force for going to AAAS. He was a AAAS fellow. And there were a lot of people that he was out. He was well respected. And he and Amy Ross really drove that program. And I came on board, and that's how I met my wife, Barbara.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Walt was dear to my heart, really hard. And that's why we named the volunteer award after him, because it has to be given to someone who's actually done something for the group and that is meaningful, and not just somebody else in the community who's done good work, but it has to be somebody that has actually helped the group.
Shelley, as context for the creation of Caltech Center for Diversity, what were the issues and who were the people that drove this development? Because at the institutional level, there's always, it's so difficult to get things going, right? So what were the turning points that culminated in the Center for Diversity at Caltech?
Well, I think it stemmed from the Women's Center group, because there were a number of us who were part of the Women's Center but had other issues in bringing them forward to try and get something done. Kathleen Bartle-Schulweiss, I think, comes to mind because she was a driving force to help the LGBT group. And she and I worked together a lot on that. But I think once we got Robbie Vogt out, who was the provost, that helped a lot, actually.
He was not an ally in this regard.
He was not an ally at all. He was the one that dismissed me and Kate from the board. It was hard. I think it helped to get some LGBT people into the Center for Diversity. Tasso is a good one. And also, the woman that just left. Sorry, I'm having elder moments here.
Okay.
I have trouble with names. I do. But anyway, they were driving forces to get our room in the center and to get our library moved, but also to put together programming for like the Fred Scher Award and other awards for diversity.
Yeah.
I think that was important because it drives publicity that these programs exist and that these programs have other things besides giving awards. In other words, there's a place to come together, to talk, to have programming. I think that the Mellon Fellowships really helped, and having something at the end of the year where these receptions at the Athenaeum where it looks like it's really meaningful.
Yeah.
That's nice. It's not just something that happens at the center, but something real. Makes you feel like you're really part of something because the Athenaeum is so special.
On that point, Shelley, I wonder if you can compare. So winning the Fred Scher Award, comparing that with previous awards. The Fred Scher Award, of course, it's a Caltech award. So I wonder what the takeaway is in terms of you being recognized at the place you work, how meaningful that is.
Very, very much so. More meaningful than the Center Award. Because it people came up to me and thanked me for the work I was doing at Caltech.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that was meaningful for me because I didn't know that many people knew what I was doing. I think it's a meaningful award. I think we need to do more of that. I, you know, I'm the kind of person that likes to say thank you. I don't know if anybody's told you this, but for years I've been anybody who's helped Ellen's lab or helped the facility at Christmas time, I give a handmade basket to everybody.
Oh, wow.
Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah. So the shops, the electrical, the plumbing, the air conditioning, all the guys that helped me during the year, anybody who's done something significant during the year, I keep a list of, and I thank them. And I thank them from the lab. And I think those kinds of things to give back, to say thank you, are meaningful. They're meaningful to me. So for Caltech to say thank you struck my heart.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think anybody really noticed that much.
Shelley, one of the more fun-sounding memberships, since 2014, you've been a thought leader for Discover E, and that's in the letter E at the end of Discover. First, tell me, what is Discover E? Discover E
is a nonprofit that works to make engineering more accessible and more a path for young people to take up. And so I've been representing LGBTQ in their thought leader group. But more than that, I've been able to get some interesting programming because right now we do called a Persist series where we bring somebody in who talks about their life on the internet. And there's also there's a girls program. There's a Future City program where the kids come together and build a city. Just a number of programs. You can go on their website and have a look at it. But basically, I just have a way of running into people who I think might be interesting to help. For instance, I do a lot with the Point Foundation. I give them money. They're an LGBTQ LGBTQ scholarship program for all kinds of education. But I'm always looking to see if wherever I go that there might be somebody who might be good for the Discover E Persist program. And I ran into somebody at a fundraiser who happens to be in Hollywood, well, sort of Hollywood, actually in Las Vegas, who was the administrator for, oh my God, I just lost it. They do all kinds of crazy acrobatics, music and stuff. It'll come to me. Anyway, this group, she arranged for all the engineers in their company to talk to the Persist people, and they do things like underwater stuff and all kinds of crazy things. Cirque du Soleil.
Uh-huh.
Cirque du Soleil, yeah. So the female engineers of Cirque du Soleil became a program, an hour-and-a-half program on the internet for people to watch and listen to their stories. And, that kind of thing. I actually interviewed Frances Arnold up in the biology division. I brought her over and we did, I got the Caltech AV people, Maxwell, to come and help me. And we did an interview just before Frances Arnold received the Nobel Prize. And then she got the Nobel Prize and then she was already going to be on the program. So things like that, serendipity, right?
Yeah.
So I love doing stuff like that, putting people together and making a difference.
Shelley, what were the circumstances when you were asked to be keynote speaker for the National Science Foundation's Pride Celebration in 2017?
That was my greatest honor I've ever had. Seriously. I never thought I'd be a part of something like that or just to go to NSF and meet everybody. Oh, that was probably the highlight of my life, besides my wedding. They were wonderful, and it was broadcast as well as in person, and it was just significant to my life. I felt like I'd actually done something that got recognized.
Given how big that stage was, what did you want to talk about? What was important for you to convey?
I talked about Nogglestep. I talked about our programming. I talked about being yourself and finding people of like mind and giving each other a hand up, which NSF can do. I talked about seeing if NSF would start counting us. Just really mostly about coming on board and helping us, and individually, and being part of a movement. So, yeah.
Did Caltech celebrate this achievement for you? Were you recognized back on campus?
No, but I have it up on my door. Yeah, I have it up on my door.
Now, your affiliation with Discovery is ongoing.
Yes, I'm still a thought leader.
What kinds of things do you do on an ongoing basis as a thought leader?
We talk about a number of companies have a representative to this group, and we talk about programming and what sounds good, and how diverse it is, and trying to get as much diversity into the programming as possible through the year. They've started to make small little videos now instead of a big giant one, which can be ongoing. But that's, it's a way also for me to meet some of these people in the companies, that are doing their diversity work. So it's a networking thing for me as much as it is to have an LGBT voice for them.
Shelley, was there in 2019 something going on that there needed to be a society consortium on sexual harassment? Or was that just a general recognition that this was a body that needed to be formed?
It was instigated by the American Association for the Advancement of Science, and Shirley Malcolm asked me to be on it. Mm-hmm. That they needed LGBTQ representation. There were a number of issues. Most of the societies did not have a way of even putting together a meeting ethics blurb, for making conduct of meetings. And so the society has actually made a roadmap for how to get started, all the way through the legalities of putting together programs like this. So there's a legal council, there's an education council, there's brown bags every quarter for being able to talk about things that are happening in your societies. I've actually used that information, that roadmap, to help the biology DEI committee to think about speakers for having to. We just asked Lindsay's office to give us the Caltech stance on what we should put on speaker invitations, so that we don't run into something like what I think it was MIT had this year, where they had someone who came and just talked about anti-affirmative action, that kind of thing. So it's actually been good, because there's been a number of societies who actually we've worked with through Nogglestep who had no idea even the definitions of what LGBTQ mean and stuff. So I did a brown bag 3-hour brown bag session for them on nomenclature of the LGBTQ community, and those kinds of things that what happens when when your society has got a contract with a hotel and a campus that's in a state that does not allow California people to be paid to go to your meeting because of the California state ruling that anybody who doesn't recognize LGBTQ people in their laws, we have a boycott of those states. The state of California does. And so the question is, well, do you just continue to have a meeting there, or is there something you can do to make it better? And so I went through the all gender restrooms and making DEI a focus point and having LGBTQ track to talk about those issues in STEM, whatever. And so AAAS actually did that 2 years in a row. They made me do the all the different activities for DEI. So at their annual meeting. So,
Shelley, just to bring our conversation right up to the present, in terms of your energy, both your emotional energy and your scientific energy, how much of a given week are you spending on the science and how much are you spending on the activism? And is that different than it was 10, 20, 30 years ago?
My weekends are activism. My work week is my work week. And I try and keep them separate. Unless I'm on campus and there's meetings with either the DEI committee or something going on in the CCID. I am on the LGBTQ working group for CCID. But past 2 years, it's all been by Zoom anyway.
Right. But
basically, stuffing of the newsletters and everything else that I do for Out to Innovate, that's all weekend stuff. Barbara and I try and box that to just certain days, because otherwise it just, you lose track of things if you don't. So I have a to-do list here and a to-do list here. And, unless there's something pressing that somebody needs actually to have a Zoom with me, it's usually on a Saturday or Sunday. All our board meetings are on Sundays.
Well, Shelley, now that we've worked right up to the present and that we started talking about your current work, I'd like to end this wonderful discussion with some ideas that look to the future. So because so many of your motivations on the activism side have been oriented toward making things better in the future, right? What are the big areas where there's still fundamental work to be done and where this is no time to rest on laurels, even in retrospect and in appreciation of all that you've accomplished up to this point?
Oh, well, you know what? History shows us that anything can happen and pull the rug right out from under you. It's just like the Supreme Court decisions that came down the last couple of weeks make me nervous because they can go back and revisit. Anybody can sue and go back and revisit the Supreme Court and nullify all of the marriage laws and whatnot. The years before Biden, the 4 years before Biden, were tough because many of the things were taken away. We have to be vigilant. We have to be continually educating. We have to build our coalitions. We have to build our friends. And we have to show our faces, because if we don't, then people think that nothing's needed anymore. The fact is we always will need it. We always need it more than ever. We have so many students who are disowned by their parents, who can't get financial information from them to get a scholarship. They may live in their cars. There's so many people, and not just in the United States, but I get letters from around the world. Can your scholarships can make me eligible? Can you do an international student? Right now, I can't. I can do it for the fellowships, but not for the scholarships. It's difficult. There's so many needy things that need to happen. There's a lot of people who are out of work because the first people that they let go are the people they don't like, and that's a fact. I think we've got to continue to put pressure on NSF and NIH to do the demographic surveys, the census surveys that need to get done. First thing I'm always asked is, well, how many people in STEM are there? Well, I can do a back of the hand calculation from the census data, but I can't tell you how many people are in STEM. It's interesting, always there'll be work to do till the day I die, I'm sure. And I plan to keep working till I'm 75, mainly for Ellen. We're a team.
Yeah.
And I want to get the facility up to a state of the art so we can bring in somebody good. I have to tell you that's very difficult right now because the biotechs are sucking up all of the flow people and paying them extraordinary. I lost an operator 2 years ago because Amgen picked him right up, made him 3 times the salary, shipped him off to San Francisco, and I was grooming him. And that's tough, So there are things I need to do at Tech to make things workable for when I do retire. I don't want to leave it in a legacy environment. And I want to continue to help Ellen fulfill her dreams. She has a dream, and I try to make magic happen for her. That's what I do.
Shelley, on the science side, what is Ellen's dream, and how will you help her get there?
Ellen's dream is to solve the puzzle. How do these cells navigate, and how well do they navigate? What can help or be a detriment? But mainly, how does the blueprint work? We haven't solved it. We're getting there, but we got to go back all the way to the embryonic stem cell and see how that transfers, and that's what we're going to do. We just got a little grant from the Milnick to start that with a brand new postdoc. So,
Shelley, just as a postscript, I wonder if you take comfort in the science to some degree, where progress in science can't be ripped out from under you the way that progress in inclusivity and diversity sometimes can.
That's an interesting question. Science can always be ripped out from under you depending on where you are. Okay, whether your country is free or not. Science is not believed by a number of people in this country right now.
That's right.
And much less an LGBT person doing science might scare somebody. The propaganda is always going to be there. It was there in the 40s. The fact that the decimation of literature on Pasadena lawns for 200 houses in my neighborhood that named every Jewish scientist in NIH that was in control, and CDC that was in control, and FDA that was in control. That's scary.
Yeah.
And they even named Rachel Levine and put and a transgender in that propaganda. That's scary, I think Rachel will be targeted, and yet Rachel's one of the best health policy people there is. So we're living in a time where I can't answer that question. I think that we have to be vigilant. I think no matter who we are, if we're a scientist, I think we have to use our best ethics judgment that we can use, be fair, be just, and be inclusive, and listen to diverse voices. I think that's really where I'm coming with this. It's not just about LGBTQ. It's about all the intersectionalities.
Yeah, yeah. Shelley, I'd like to thank you so much for spending this time with me, for so honestly and openly and with such verve sharing your perspective and insight on the activism and the science. It's a wonderful thing to be able to do this. I'd like to thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anytime.